Hello everyone, Mr. John here from Areteem Institute with this week's Thursday Tidbit, where we're going to be continuing our discussion of fuel efficiency in cars and the costs of commuting. So, little bit of review from what we did last time and some of the assumptions we made. So we said, just for ease of calculations, let's suppose the cost of gas is $5 per gallon. And we started with what I'm going to now call the normal version of a car. So this normal version of the car had a 25 miles per gallon efficiency in the city and 35 miles per gallon on the highway. And for this car, what we did last time, we'll review the numbers in just a second. We had these possible routes to work. So one route was like the back streets. You did 20 miles directly in the city. The other one was 25 miles, but you kind of did some city driving, some highway along the way. So that provided some complications, right? You needed to consider what route to take. Then the second route had some city mileage, some highway mileage, which we'll get back to a little bit in a second. But let's just review quick the costs then from there. So this is all in the previous video. You can check it out there. But these total travel costs based on the two routes, we could look at them per day, per week, per year. Right? And so remember, a single day is to work and back from work. So we'll see that in just a moment as well. But those were our total costs for traveling to and from work with the normal car. So 25 miles per gallon city, 35 miles per gallon highway. Now, what our first question was then, well, how could this compare to a hybrid, right? We still want to not have to worry about electricity or anything, so we're not talking about an electric car or a plug-in hybrid or things like that, but just a pure hybrid. You use gas like normal, except it has some electronic components that'll allow it to improve to 45 miles per gallon city and highway. So this is a little bit different, that the miles per gallon is constant for those two types of things, but that is our assumption here about the hybrid we have. And we want to worry about then what this cost might be. So similar to before, let's consider a day, right? So one day we have the cost, right? And to remember here, this is to and from work there as well. So if we're considering just that one day, we can look at it this way as well. So day to and from work here in this case. Now, we can play with the units a little bit here, right? So to and from work. Now, we don't actually need to worry about the two routes, right? If we're purely talking about the price, there's 20 miles per work in the city, or 5 plus 20, 25 if you take that highway route. So for this route, we can consider it being 20 plus 20 miles. So the total number of miles we have is going to be 40 in this scenario. Now, we know that for the fuel efficiency, right, we have a 45 miles per gallon. So, right, if we divide this by 45 miles per gallon, so let me say miles per gallon here. Now, notice that this is going to be giving us the total number of gallons needed in a single day. And so then we need to multiply this by the price per gallon. So it's $5 per gallon in this scenario. So we can cancel out all the units. We have 40 over 45. So dividing everything by 5, this is 8/9 times $5 per gallon. What you're going to get here is roughly $4.44 for that single day of commuting. So single day, right? $4.44 using this hybrid car. Now, we haven't done any comparisons yet, so let's do that same day, 5 days per week, 50 weeks per year, roughly with vacation on the next slide. So we have our original numbers filled in. So for a single day, right, the non-hybrid, the cheaper way was taking the highway route. The hybrid, right, it's going to be cheaper since it's the same miles per gallon either way, taking the city route. And so like before, these calculations are not too difficult. If we have it for a single day, we multiply by 5, and so then you're going to get $22.22. We have these anytime you have the fraction 1/9 or multiples of that fraction. You a lot of times have all of these numbers with repeated decimals or repeated digits. So multiplying this by 50 as well, this pattern actually continues, and you have $1,111.11 in this case. So this is kind of our comparison of the travel cost to work for a single day, a week, or a year, comparing that hybrid to the non-hybrid normal version of the car. So the real question then would be, well, there's probably some trade-offs, or if we're typically just talking about price for the moment, there's probably even some trade-offs in the price. So suppose you're purchasing a new car, right? You're deciding between the normal version and the hybrid version with these numbers we've been using before. Now, typically hybrids are more expensive. So let's assume for the sake of this comparison, the hybrid version costs $10,000 more. So how long would it take to kind of make up for this cost based on the stuff we've done in question 1, right? So how long, right? You're saving money using the hybrid, but right, how much are you saving? How long would it cost, or how long would it take to make up that difference in price? So, right, and also then, what other factors might come into play, right? You might need to think about more than cost. Cost might be more complicated than what we're dealing with here. So how might those factors, or what might those factors be when you are making this decision? But let's focus on the gas cost first. So reminding ourselves of the yearly gas cost here, the non-hybrid version, $1,927.50, hybrid version, $1,100, 11 cents. And so our first thing to calculate might be the difference, right? So what is the difference? So the difference here, and this is going to be in a single year, right? So the difference is, and so you just subtract. So the difference is equal to 1927.50 cents minus 1,111.11, right? If you subtract these two, you're going to get $816.39 there. So that is your savings per year, right? So this difference here, we want to say, is per year. So this is your comparison per year. Now, if we want to say, well, the price difference of the hybrid, right? Remember the price difference of the hybrid was $10,000 more. So how long is it going to take us to make up that difference per year? Well, this is where we can divide. So $10,000 difference, you're saving $816.39 per year. And so when you divide this, you're going to get roughly 12.25 years. So this is the years to make up the cost. So if you're planning on having the car for a long time, right, maybe you can make up that cost, right? Maybe it makes sense in that scenario as well. So that kind of is the end of the big math stuff, but let's talk a second about some of the other factors or other assumptions you might need to bring into play, things like that as well. Of course, gas costs might change. The $10,000 more might not be accurate. Your commute might change during the time, stuff like that. But what are some of these other factors we might want to consider as well? So, first of all, the cost was commute only, right? So this is a simplifying thing that should probably be a pretty standard thing, at least over the years, right? But what about, right, trips? Are you planning on using this car if you're driving for any trips or errands, right? If you need to go to the grocery store a couple times a week, or you're visiting, right, your parents or things like that, are those things you're going to be doing as far as driving that car as well. So there might actually be a lot more driving you do other than just the commute in that scenario. So that could be one factor you want to also consider. So that might bring the years down, right? So if you're driving it for work, but also a lot of driving for other things, you might say, okay, then based on gas alone, it takes 8 years to make up the cost instead of 12. Now, right, the other thing is you want to be thinking about how long you have the car, right? So if it's going to take 8 or 12 years, depending on these factors, to make up the cost, do you plan on having the car that long, right? If you're going to have it for 15 years, maybe it makes sense. If you're planning on having it for a little while, for 5 years, and then buy a new car, right? Maybe it doesn't make sense, right? You also might want to look at cost of repairs, right? Are you willing to get the car repaired, right? And is it easier or harder, right? So one of the things you want to consider is sometimes a hybrid car might have higher repair costs. So that might push off some of the savings if it kind of costs longer to repair or things like that as well, right? Also with these plans, right, you might just like the look of the hybrid more, or the hybrid kind of has some nice features that the normal doesn't, or you want to compare those things as well in terms of how you're going to use that car too. Now, last thing just to mention, of course, is, right, you can also say here, right, is it something that you enjoy to help the environment, right? So maybe if costs are equal, right, maybe you say, okay, I'm not really going to save money with the hybrid, but maybe if it's about the same as getting a normal car, right, I'll feel better for helping the environment with this, right? Hopefully it helps make the next hybrid car cheaper because more are in production. This might be something that you care about as well, right? You might like saying you drive a hybrid car that way too. So these things are definitely more complicated than just the math we do, but that math can definitely be one of the factors when you're looking at these things. And sitting down, planning these things, doing some calculations really can help make you make more informed decisions that way too. So that will do it for this week's video. Thank you all for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button, subscribe, it really helps us out. Share new ideas for Thursday Tidbits in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see everyone next time. Goodbye.